Hello again. Now that we have everything drawn, I know I've said this multiple times, we can go ahead and add our vintage texturing to our map so we can make it look, like it's on an old piece of paper or something. So to start, we are going to want to go to our line work. We're going to hit our wand tool. We're not going to sample all layers, and we are going to select all of the water in our map. So that should be all of the lakes and all, well, not the rivers, but all the lakes and not the seas and the oceans and so on and so forth. Then on the bottom, we are going to kind of get a darker gray, and we're going to fill that in. We're going to make a new layer. Press Control-Shift-I to invert the selection. Get a little bit of a lighter shade of gray and fill in the land. Then from there, we are going to make a new layer up here. You're going to get a somewhat paper color. It's not quite right. And what we're going to do is darker color actually looks really nice. So with the blending modes, you can really kind of just experiment and see what looks good to you. But I'm going to stick on darker color because that actually looks kind of interesting. Then what we're going to want to do is we're going to drag in our textures. So I have this free paper texture here. What I usually like to do with this is I like to go down to soft light, but we can try the different settings, see what we get. Darken looks interesting. Again, soft light, that's what I originally planned. So we'll just go with soft light. We can reduce this just a little bit. And now I have these other textures that I have. Now, these are not textures that I made, so I will not be providing them with the assets, but you can Google your own textures. However, it's advisable to only use textures and materials that are free to use. You don't want to just Google someone else's work and then slap that right onto your piece and then sell that in a book. That's not good practice. This is just a texture I quickly Googled. I am not entirely aware of the licensing information, but just to show you the power of what different textures can do, I quickly brought this one in. It's also better to work with higher resolution textures, which this one is not, which is okay. And we can reduce that a little bit. And so now we're kind of getting closer to this kind of vintagey paper feel. I have another one here. We can drag that in. Again, try the different blending modes. See what looks kind of interesting. soft light always looks pretty nice. And let's just reduce it a little bit because you don't want all these textures to really steal the show, you know. From there, what we can do is we can add some stains to our map. Here I have a brush that I made called Map Stains. And we can quickly just add some stains and go ahead and check out and see which blending mode you like. Hard light looks pretty good to me. And then what we can do is we can go to our general brushes, go to soft round, make sure our opacity is on. We can hit our masks just in case we want to recover something we deleted. And we can kind of lightly erase some of the areas here. Another thing we can do is we can go back to this water selection, which we can rename water gray. We can create a new layer, right click, press clipping mask. And what that will do is the clipping mask will only color the areas that are on the parent layer. So it won't, nothing I draw out here will show until I hit the parent layer. So what we can do there is we can just add a little bit of a blue to the inside the coasts. And doesn't have to be too much, just a little bit. And the same thing here. If we want to color our, line work, one thing we can do is we can click on the line work layer, new layer, create clipping mask, and just do a quick fill in. Now, because we have all of these blending modes up here, the colors we're using, they won't look like this color up here. They'll be changed. We can do the same thing down here for the rivers. Create clipping mask. Do a quick fill. Okay. Yeah. So the reason why that just kind of immediately contradicted me was because the color is the stroke, and that's why it looks like that. So we would actually have to go and change the color of the stroke, and I would recommend to kind of keep darker lines. We can, I mean, you can color as much as you want. You can color the trees and the mountains. We're gonna fix our key. We're renaming this to texture. Here we have we're gonna fix our key because we have this little area down here. We're just gonna kind of delete that a little bit. And I feel like changing the color of my compass rose. So we should do that. Create clipping mask. Brown color, maybe dark brown. If you want to get some like jagged edges, you can press compass rose, or I'm sorry, you can click on the compass rose, hit the mask tool, and you can kind of just, you know, scratch in some kind of jaggedness going on here. Just kind of add some detail to it. We can do the same thing with the key. Kind of get some jagged kind of scratch marks cutting in through there. We can do that with the border as well. Just really kind of scratch it up. Really make it look like this is a map that's been used. Kind of get that a little bit bigger maybe. Another thing we can do that will look nice is you go to multiply, or sorry, you make a new layer in your texture folder. Go to multiply, bring this down just a bit. We're going to hit E for our eraser tool. We're going to hit the soft round brush. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a vignette. I think that's what it's called. And we're going to kind of just increase the size of this a little bit here. Let me just reduce opacity just a little bit more. I kind of want these areas here on the compass rose to be white like this. So what we're going to do for that is we're going to disable the layer mask for a second. We're going to hit compass rose. We're going to go hit our wand tool, select outside, Control Shift to invert the selection, create a new layer, drag it under the compass rose, copy this color for start. Okay, make sure all layers is not on. Okay, we're gonna have to get rid of this, unfortunately, for this to work. Sorry, I had all layers on, that's why it wasn't working. There we go. And so if we want to change the color of the compass rose itself now, we're gonna have to make a new clipping mask. And get that colored in just like that. And then we can re-enable our clipping mask. There we go. I also kind of like to have a little bit of a glowy effect kind of coming off the compass rose. So one thing we can do for that is create a new layer, press B, and we can try it with this if we want. You can go and create a radial segment count, however many you want, 4 or 8 might work best. And you can just kind of click, go to blending modes. This did not work as planned because I have this still. I'm just gonna have to delete this. I don't know why that's still on. Photoshop is lagging. Yeah, maybe it's because I have symmetry on. isn't being deleted for some reason. Okay, there we go. Drag that up, see how it looks up here. Okay, for some reason that's not having quite the effect. Oh, it's because it's so dark. I kind of painted that in a little bit too dark. Okay. Just stick with that. And try out the different blending modes, see how they look. Color dodge is fine. And just for fun, we can go ahead and add just maybe just a few splatter marks just for fun. Just a few more darker ones. Or actually what would be cool is if we like threw down some red. Oh, it looked like someone had bled on this once. That'd be kind of cool. Maybe like up here, because that's where like the bad guys are supposed to be. Just to balance it out, we'll put some more red down here. And here we have a pretty decent looking map. So I would call this done for the most part. This is a sepia tone style map. Obviously, there are many different styles of creating maps. This is, however, just a very standard vintage looking sepia tone map, which is what's typically most popular for fantasy maps. So I hope that this was helpful to you. I'll see you in the next one.